Recording. Boom. We should be a live recording on the TruMon show with Arthur Christian. How are you, Arthur?
Very well, Yannick.
Yeah, great. Happy to
Good.
see you here again. It's been a while. We haven't chat together about the reality. About
What
reality.
is
I
it?
don't want to use truth so much together as a word. I think it's more reality and what's going on because, of course, there's
Mm.
a lot happening, especially right now. And I think it's never been so much in the open, the whole Babylonian magic trick that we call often. So it's more than ever in plain sight, and it's very easy to perceive the propaganda if you question a little bit. But if you have absolutely no questioning towards what the government tells you and all the other military and all that stuff, you will end up lost at sea, probably drowning. Like you can be lost at sea. There's no problem being lost at sea, but if someone throw you a raft or something, get on it, and that's what we're gonna try to build tonight. I think it's a raft for the ones that are lost at sea and have problem uh, conceiving or just not conceiving, but perceiving the propaganda from the government, especially in these days. And what's happening here in Canada, it's happening in Australia, it's happening everywhere. So I think we're all pretty much affected by what's going on and all in the same way because the measures are all the same. So it's but there's a lot of basic reality to understand, I think, and that's where I think we uh, need you, Arthur, to put a bit of light on this. And I think you wanted to call this the cult of oops duality, the cult of oops, because it's all about the cult of the occult. So, but once you see, it's once you get out that frame and you start see the picture. Like me, I see the big picture, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I understand everything. But I can see the big picture. I can see the lies and the deception, and that's it. So I think first is to understand the basics. How did we get to where we are today, being manipulated so easily by other beings, by simply other beings? So, Arthur, so it's up to you.
Oh, it's interesting. Well, you said it's a big picture, and it is a big picture that those of us who are prepared to challenge every picture in our head, that are explanations, definitions, instructions coming through letters, words, because everything coming out of the system of alphabets are pictures. These pictures were explained to us. Now, for example, I'm going to explain it like this. I made a couple of drawings. We'll put this up as the first one. Can we see that?
Yeah.
Sensing is reality, right? And you'll notice that the arrow's pointing to the man from reality, but nothing going anywhere else. Now, that's how things should be. And we're going to explain what we mean by how this should be. But in the system, we have this, where a man, can you hear me all right? With the paper in front of me? Okay, good. Where a man is explaining to another man what the man is sensing. So now what we're talking about here is, when we talk about sensing, it's what we see, what we hear, what we touch, what we feel, what we smell, what we taste. And the experiences we have directly with reality are pictures that we are creating uniquely, because each of us has a unique experience through senses, right? So even if 10 of us stand together looking at reality, whatever it is, each of us is still having a different experience. And if we try to explain to someone else what that experience is, the explanation will never ever be the experience that we're actually having. We can only imagine what someone is telling us about their experience, but we can't actually experience it. We're only imagining it, which is different. So the system is all about a world of imagining reality and believing it to be true. And because we've practiced it 24/7, from the moment we appeared in the womb until basically when we cark it in the grave, crematorium, whatever, it's all we know, because we've not been allowed to create dreams that are unique to each of us. So this is at the nutshell of everything, because the whole system is basically a cult of sameness. All right, it's basically this. If I can show you that shows all right. Right?
Yeah.
You can see that. And the system is a cult. Now, of the occults. Now, the occults is just explanation, instruction, education, suggestion, pictures put in our heads that we reflect, that we refer to when we're observing reality. And they become prisons, like boxes that we fit inside a working model. And we think that that is the perception of our reality that we've created, when actually it's all borrowed. So we're actually forming borrowed lives. We're renting a life created by the occultists out of Freemasonry and higher up. And it doesn't matter what read and write alphabet language you are reflecting on. It is the same occultic practice, because the definition, for example, yellow daffodil, you can only imagine that. You can't experience it directly, right? So you can observe, we can observe reality and experience it through our senses, and that is unique to you, to me, to each of us. And they are our dreams. And the more we build up the big picture of our sensory experience, the more our soul is present and who we are is present amongst the living. And when we do that, the essence of life itself is embodied in us, because everything that we refer to as the good heart, all the good sentiments of the good heart, compassion, empathy, nurturing, caring, whatever, comes out of direct experience with nature. And because it's undefined, we're not in a box. We're not operating in a prison in here. So when you're referring to COVID-19 and coronavirus, they are boxes, because the definition through her story of all the explanations given to us out of the occults of the system itself, have formed the concepts of sickness and disease. Now, for example, a kid can learn the story of Superman and perform in costume through practice Superman in Metropolis, being the good guy, fighting the bad guys. But somewhere along the line in the script of this acting, that the kid, because the kid is recalling the definitions of the occults of Superman, suddenly comes across kryptonite and the kid is paralyzed. Now, the kid's acting. It's a placebo effect. It's a Stockholm syndrome. So we learn behavioral patterns in such ways that we think that's normal, that inside the boxes of this practicing that we have observed from others who do it, and we think that this is what we are. So our limitations are set. It's defined within the parameters of that perception of reality. So when people tell us, this is coronavirus, you've got to remember, it's not coronavirus. It's the internet. Because without the internet, there'd be no coronavirus. But if there was no internet, right, there would have been no industrial revolution. There'd be no printing press. And if there was no industrial revolution, no printing press, we've got to go back before there were alphabets and language that defined these planks, these platforms of our falling into definitions that we perceive as our reality when it's all borrowed, and we're renting it and we're calling it out. So, you know, we're not born Christian, we're not born Jew, we're not born anything. We're not born race, culture, creed, titles, standards, careers, you know, ethnicity. We're not born any of these things. We're boxed into it after the inculcation, after this pounding that we receive. So it's here that the investigation ends, when we wake up. Now, here's the big thing about all this, is that we all have free will. And it's absolute. And it means that no matter what we talk about or write about or record as music or video, it can't do anything for anyone. Nothing. We can resonate with the sentiments of what feels good and right. And we go, yeah, you know, it's just, you know, like that CNN thing I saw yesterday. Someone sent me a video shot on CNN. All these people outside CNN smashing glass windows and rallying. But see, they're still in the system of the occult. They're in a cult within the prisons of the occult, because all people can do in the system, going back to this, is this. So coronavirus is a box, right? It's a box. 9/11 is a box. While we are busy trapped in the storytelling of this stuff, we're actually defaulting to the system that was built to keep us giving our power, energy to the people who benefit from that occult, from those cults. So they have to keep recreating new cults of the occult all the time to keep people inside these boxes, because it's inside there where our energy is being harvested, our life energy, and we're doing it. We're the ones doing it. No one else is doing it. Only we do it through our free will, because we've accepted that perception of reality. But if we don't step back and look at the internet, and without it, there'd be no coronavirus, because it can't be. You can't have coronavirus all over the world with the sameness model. It's like you could look at probably 300 cities across Earth today. You wouldn't even know what city you're in, because everyone looks the same, dresses the same, and all the buildings are starting to look the same. So there's this one world, this unified, in law they call it uniform commercial code. There's a sameness model, and people are being educated into a box that's one world, one earth, one this, one that. So in the planks of the coronavirus, going right back, it was only on the ships of the invaders, all the people that invaded all the tribes of man across Earth, before any of this stuff even was in their imagining. There's all the tribes of man everywhere, because we all come from these tribes. All of us are descendants of these tribes. Going right back, pre these unidentified floating objects, these admiralty ships, you know, coming with their weird hats, right? Bringing the books with all this recorded, his story, her story, encoded in their books. And it's the blueprint of this storytelling that they have designed this agenda, where they had to educate the children, probably wiped out most of the adults, and then brainwashed the children, and through the generations, and very quickly, it only takes like 60 years to completely forget your true history of your real ancestors through the tongue of your ability to sense everything that you're brought up in the tribes amongst nature. So if we lose all that, and we're now in his story, her story, the history of definition, explanation, instruction, education, we're no longer receiving input from nature all around us anymore. We're only now doing this. We're now doing this. This is what we're doing. Where we're receiving input from a man who's telling us how to think and feel and act about whatever it is we're observing of reality. And we're bouncing that picture back onto another man, back or to that man or to another man. Now that's the ego, because the ego only plays off another man. It can't play off with reality. So the ego is just a collection house, a history of all the images, the pictures that forms the big picture of the system that we got lost in. So that's why it's so confusing, why people can't get out of these boxes, because they're so trapped in so much information coming at you from another man. Constantly, constantly, constantly.
That's what I was going to tell you. There's so much information, and they think they know so much. They know very, very little about reality.
Because they don't step back to look at the bigger picture, because they haven't trained to do it. They're lost. It's like the ball on the melody when you're watching the video song and it's bouncing along. You're just watching the ball. Come along, sing along, we'll sing, Well, people are following the information and they're so used to doing it. Come on, children, learn after me. A, B, C. And again, children, A, B, C. Now we have to learn to spell A, B, C. So we can put you under the spell G, C. And so we practice this from so young, listening to parents and listening to others. And this inculcation is what has us form boxes, given a print, a name, a birth certificate, a name, put on it. And this is your doomed life, because you're entombed in a box of explanation, instruction, education, suggestion, indoctrination, brainwashing, inculcation. It's all one and the same shit. So we can go from rally to rally to rally to rally to movement to movement to movement to movement on social media, from this situation and that matter to that concern to this one to that one, and shopping and changing. It's no different to a pixelations on a monitor, just changing like this constantly. And the head is so bamboozled with so much coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. We don't even know what we are anymore. We are just totally mesmerized, discombobulated. We are totally distracted, and we don't have a single dream that each of us has created that is our soul, because we're still listening to the explanations that we bounce off other people. We reflect off something else. And that's what the self-obsession is, because we begin the ego out of practicing this occult method. So in our shit, because anyone brought up in the system will have shit. There's this shit I'm pointing out. You cannot, it's impossible to be brought up in the system not have this shit. We all got it. And it shows up in 1,000 different ways. With me, it can show up as aggression, anger, it can show up in, you just got it, because we each have different characteristics and ways.
I was pointing something like that to PT the other day. I'm like, is there any beings honored without disorder? Like, I think we all have some kind of personality disorder. Like, I can name you mine very easily, but I'm sure you too, and everyone has. So is there someone on earth without any personality disorder?
The point is, it's not a big concern that we have it. Is, are we capable of dreaming outside of it and move down those paths where we are not in a box anymore, and we are creating a way of life that sets us free, and where we can actually support others who are also committed to that, to step outside of that, and then raise children who are not brought up in those boxes, who can accelerate faster, and then their children probably go right back to how ancestors were before the invasion started, when these people came to indoctrinate our ancestors. Because the fall, the fall, Adam and Eve and all that stuff, the forbidden tree, is just explanation, instruction, education. What it really is the will or the intent of a man to control another man's perception of reality, to control what they're dreaming. That's what it's all about. That's why they're in your head. Because they believe that they need to control you so they can get power from your life energy directed into their dream. So they've got to give you anything they can animate, because the whole system is animation. It's like a big commercial. It's like watching Bugs Bunny all day, every day.
It's like
Donald.
It's like a movie. That's what I was saying to PT the other day. Life is like a movie, and now with this COVID stuff, it's even more like theatrical.
Yeah. It's like the TruMon Show.
Yeah.
It can be reversed or whichever way, but it's the same. But the dreams we're thinking are not ours. We not created them. So unless we can slow down and contemplate and start making sense of things, and you can't make sense through imagining words. You can't use anything in your head. Every single alphabet in your head is not your dream. So no matter what you're thinking, if it's in alphabets, it is another man inside your head that you have accepted as your master, as your focus, your ability to look at life. So basically, to have that in us means we have broken wills, because we've accepted someone else and their persuasion. It doesn't matter if it starts through mum and dad, peers and siblings and, you know, extended families, and who we sent to a preschool, daycare, high school, public school, whatever. The same practice applies. So it's not about coronavirus. It's not about all the movies. It's about, can't you step back and look at this and what's going on here? Because who we are is not in it, right? But we get sucked into thinking we need to start a freedom movement. But the freedom movement is just a box with lots of people inside it, all talking about freedom. But that ain't freedom. That's not their freedom. If you go to a supermarket and you're buying food off the shelf with 500 other people all doing it, that's not freedom. That's just a choice given to you by those who provide only what you are offered. You are not creating anything in the supermarket or the supermarket. You're just a slave.
That's the big confusion. They talk about freedom, that their freedom has been taken away, but then you go shop at the supermarket, like you're fully confused.
It's such a freedom because they're not your dream. See, nature is our true consciousness, is man's consciousness, but it's undefined. And when we fall away into definitions, it is a darkness spreading over the dream of life. It's like a squad of B-52 bombers coming in over the horizon to drop the payload of all those lies onto our world that we're dreaming and to destroy it. You see, so the greatest sin we can do in terms of, because sin is a curse, the greatest form of harm doing is to inculcate a child, is to explain something to a child. That's the greatest thing. Now, my wife and I, we've raised 4 daughters. We are sinners, if you want to look at it this way, because we didn't know. We didn't comprehend this at the time. But we're working hard with our kids to explain them what's happened, why the world is it is, because the consciousness of man is undefined. You cannot define it. And when it's undefined, there is no box to retain it, to contain it. It expands as the sun that shines, right? We don't have to teach a child what a man is. Like, you don't have to go to a puppy dog and teach the puppy dog what a dog is for the puppy dog can become a dog. It's already built in. And everything of nature, from the greatest to the tiniest, is this. It's already built in. If we do not interfere, it unfolds naturally to be what it's already meant to be in that intention. It's because there is a greater plan of the dream of life that we have forgotten, right? Because all we're dealing is dreams against dreams against dreams against dreams. But most of these dreams are coming from other men and women telling us what our dreams are, instead of us directly experiencing the essence of life itself directly and forming that dream. And in doing that, there's your peace, there's your freedom, there's your joy, there's your happiness, there's your bonding with nature. Because when we're brought up undefined, we are the tree, we are the insect, we are the bird, we are the brothers and sisters of everything, because they are the consciousness of our dream of life. It's a living dream. We live in the dream, live in the dream of man's life, because we're the only ones here. There's no one else here. It's just us. See, for example, going back to the sensing, we're only here. It's only us. And you can call that God if you like. I like the word creator. We are the creator of our dreams. But in the occults, this is done to us. So in the occults, we are so lost in the storytelling of what has been explained to us. And it doesn't matter how majestic the information or the whatever's surrounding the explanation, whether people wearing uniforms and robes, whether wearing popes and kings and queens and castles and all that. You know, even today with White House and Parliament House and, you know, big celebrations with politicians all together, and, you know, it means nothing because they are not our dream. And once we lose connection with the true dream of life, we are soulless. We are empty of life because we are not creating any dreams to fill the bucket of our true life. It's been sucked out of us. We're now empty. And that's what darkness is. It's just soullessness. So to keep it simple, the dreams we pass on to children who dream these dreams is the darkness that is spreading to destroy everything that they are, because that's all that can happen, because there's no separation, there's no duality. And this is the thing of the occults, is that the duality, what do we call this video? The duality, the cult of hoops. Yeah, the cult of hoops is because the sun of our soul, the undefined life, has stopped to shine. And now we are predetermining everything. So because someone told us what freedom was, someone told us what life is, someone told what Arthur is, what Janik is, someone told us what Janik is French Canadian, someone told Arthur was Arthur Greek, and Mum was Greek Cypriot, and Dad, and all, it goes on, right? This information makes the boxes is so intense. And we've been packaged like on a conveyor belt through Factory Planet Earth. We've been just constantly pounded. That when we come out and everyone else is like that, we think this is normal. And if we don't think it's normal anymore, because some of us are questioning, everyone's going to think we're crazy and stupid, right? And sometimes we even doubt what we're actually experiencing, even though we can't comprehend and explain what actually is happening. We just know something's not right. No, we just can't dot the I's and cross the T's. We just can't seem to work out what has happened to us. So the duality is just another man in your head, and you're playing off that image.
Wow, it's big what you're saying there, because I think a lot of people have different idea about that duality going on, and what you just said really resonate deep within me. That is
because
another man in your head.
It's just another man, and you're bouncing off that, reflecting off that picture, that explanation. So that's what duality, because there is no duality. Duality doesn't exist. A divided house can't stand, you know. People say there's darkness. Well, I see the lights in this night sky everywhere I'm looking. I don't see darkness. If it was jet black. Yeah, but it's not jet black. You see, so, you know, the sun shines. If wherever the sun, it's light, it's everywhere. There's no darkness coming out of the sun. It's just pure light all the time. So you'll find that because we've been defined, it's the definition that we're holding on as a belief, as a faith, as a perception of explanation to us that forms this duality. Because now it is my yellow, my daffodil bouncing off with another man when I talk about yellow daffodil. You see, this is self-obsession, because this is how the ego is formed, because we are a collection house of explanations, definitions, and we're playing it out amongst man in a cult, because the definition only exists inside the box of the cult of those occults. So, for example, the ship, the unidentified floating object, for the first time appears across the horizon, across the tribes of man on land. We've never seen it. They're all going, wow, what's this? We've never seen this before. Where does this grow in nature? What does nature need of this thing? I mean, what does it do for nature that aids nature in rolling along here and now? Would we all suffer and die if this thing didn't exist? You know, what needs it? What needs to eat it so it can live? You see, nothing. It's just this weird phenomenon called an unidentified floating object coming across the water as an admiralty ship from the British Empire, with all these weird men with hats on, and they come offshore, and all they're talking is in Latin and Hebrew and Greek, right? Or any other derivatives. And this is going right over the heads of all the tribes of man on the land, because they're not inside the box. So these people, these invaders, have to now get them inside a box so they can understand constitution, understand government, understand anything that they define, and get you inside that. so that you can then be under their power and control of their version of reality, because you've accepted it. When you accept it, you accept the whole damn thing. You accept one little thing of this lie, you accept it all, right? That's why the system, people only want the good things of the system, but they don't get it. That you can't have just the good bits of the system, because all the bad comes with it at the same time, because the duality plays out, right? And what's duality? Really, it's just using and abusing men, women, and children. So you can have water coming through the local council into your home. You call it, I have freedom. I pay a bill for that. I work for money that doesn't exist. So I have all this destruction of nature to make copper pipes and piping with damn rivers and destroying everything. You can imagine the amount of destruction we're doing, starting with children. We have to brainwash children to become the cult members of the system cult to provide the water. Now, we all lived as tribes of men, our ancestors lived as tribes of men on land, near water, access, everywhere. Now, everyone through manipulation by these people have formed cities and suburbs, right, with apartment blocks and that, and everyone's got a copper pipe or plastic pipe coming to wherever they are. It's tapped in from the water reservoirs and water tanks from the dams where they blocked all the rivers and caught all the water redirected, and they put a meter on it, so everyone has to pay for this. But we're still on land now. All of us are still man on the land now, as we've always been and never not been, right? So what's changed is what's happened in here. That's the only thing that's changed. So we've gone inside the occult of a box to be programmed, and that's why they get you so young and educate you in school, so that you can play off the duality as your life. All of it fake, because everything explained to you is just something you're imagining to be true. But you can't go and visit it and experience it directly. Anywhere, ever. You can only go to another man. So, for example, you can't go and visit Superman.
And
you can only go and visit a child acting as Superman. Right?
Explanation makes us very lazy also in the long
run.
Well,
because we're trained to stop using our brain to connect with our senses to make sense of what we're experiencing, right? Which has got nothing to do with alphabets. You can't use alphabets to make sense because the senses are undefined. Every instance of life is unique and original, never to be repeated. Every leaf, every drop of water, every grain of sand is unique and original, never to be repeated. You can never find two the same, ever. Every feather, no matter what, of the whole of the dream of life, undefined, it's not repeated. But some people have lost the plot, lost their way with all of this. And whatever the explanations are, and that's another subject for another time we can talk about, this is what's happening. So you are not allowed to dream your real life. You're only allowed to dream a puppet, a shadow, a copy, provided by those who gave you the information to work with. But it was all defined, right? But if you peel back the church, you get to the system. If you peel back the mosque, you get to the system. If you peel back like an onion, peel it right back. Buddhism, atheism, New Age, old age, doesn't matter what. It's the system made up of people who are in a sameness model inside the box, performing the rituals, everyday practices of that cult. And we call it everyday life in the system. And you can change that box. You can hop into another box. They give you that option. It's not freedom. It's still just a choice. Like going to cinema. Oh, today I'm going to buy Deepak Chopra. Tomorrow I'm going to buy Eckhart Tolle. Tomorrow I'm going to get David Icke. Right? They are not your dreams. They are not your soul. So if you can grasp this, because we're capturing a lot in this short video, none of it is true. None of it will lead you to truth. And none of it will provide a remedy that gets you out of this mess. Because the only remedy that can happen is when you're using your senses and you are unplugging from this cult of cults, where you're no longer dependent on another man. because we're supposed to be a man on the land, standing on our feet, fully responsible for food, water, shelter, because that's what makes a man. That's what we are. And in doing that, we have true freedom. We don't have to explain freedom to someone. You just live it by being responsible. Now, if we recreate food forests and get the food forests back, we're no longer agriculturalists and gardeners because the forest takes care of everything. Now we have even more time to contemplate and dream beautiful dreams. See, but today, how many people going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home? They're tired. You know, the pressures, the amount of effort they have to put in to keep themselves going, get the kids through school, all this sort of stuff, right? Keep the food on the table, keep a roof over their heads. It's always food, water, shelter. Because that's what the tribes of man had before these people arrived as these invaders. It's just tribes, man on the land, food, water, shelter. But because it was never threatened, there was no uncertainty about water, no uncertainty about food, no uncertainty about shelter. And because they're dreaming beautiful dreams, it is paradise because they're creating that. Because that's the dream they're dreaming. There's no doubt. But when we introduce doubt and uncertainty into dreams, then we start creating that, and it becomes the dreams from the good heart we all have access to get compromised. And that's why every single generation since the fall began into this lie, they've all had access to the good heart. They've all had good sentiments. They all say good things. They all dream for peace, joy, and happiness, right? They all. Yet, look at this mess we're in. Yet every generation has great mothers and fathers who love their children. But look at this mess we're all in today. Because something else is happening here. We've been misled into using access to the good heart, which is nature itself, which is life. It's life itself. That's what life is. We're using life through confusion, thinking that the definitions of freedom and truth and being a good citizen and working and paying your taxes and all that meets what we feel, makes us feel better. When actually it's not. We're actually the B-52 bombers, everyone else forming these squads of B-52 bombers, and we're bringing the payloads of these lies that would define us and dropping it on all of us and wrecking everything. And that's why all our ancestors, since this fall began into this lie. You understand what I'm saying? Like the snake around the forbidden tree is a man putting the suggestion to Eve's head. Is a man.
And I think that represents very good. Someone says the one that does the most damage are not the one spreading the lies and stuff. It's the one doing nothing about it, like you're saying.
Well, when you break people's will, we all have different quirks in our characters because there's still we can't box anybody in anything, but we end up with these side effects, you know. So yeah, some of us become apathetic. We get lost in denial. We end up in hopelessness and weakness. Because see, this goes into the other videos you and I, when we did this years ago about ritual sacrifice and how all this emotion of the ego comes out of this stuff. But that's built into the alphabets because in briefly, if you can imagine a victim, be it a child, baby, teenager, adult, it can be, whatever, tied up. And these occultists are doing these rituals on these victims. The victim has got nowhere to go. And they're torturing this victim to death. They're piecing the body everywhere. They're putting a noose around it and tightening it. And what they're doing is they're mesmerizing, they're discombobulating the victim because they've got nowhere to get away from. So this forms the emotions, right? Despair, anger, rage, loneliness, emptiness, weakness, loneliness. And those intentions of the occultists through the victim is captured in the bloodletting and blood libel of alphabets. That's why they called English the new world language, because it's going to be a one world atrophy of paralyzed people, brothers and sisters trapped under coronavirus, genetic programs, or whatever you want to call it. And as the coronavirus recedes, the tide of that recedes, what's left behind is new planks of control, more and more into, like 9/11 with the Patriots Act. 9/11, Patriots Act appeared literally within 24 hours, this big thing, already planned. So the same things with the COVID-19, all that. you'll see the changes now happening with the cashless world, more ID identification required, getting people not to closely bond with each other. Now, all of this comes out of ritual sacrifice, John, because nature doesn't teach us this stuff. We don't learn this. We don't learn jealousy and greed and despair and anger and emptiness and every single motion, motion, coming out of bloodletting, blood libel. So when you learn English, you're taking the intentions of the occultist into your dream of life inside the box, and you're playing it out in that duality, because it's them who created the language with all that emotion that they created in the ritual, right? Because go back to the ritual, you've got the arrogance of the occultist doing the ritual. You've got the indifference, the insensitivity, the coldness, the iceness, I don't give an F, all that sort of stuff going on. And then you have the other side, you've got this weakness and just, oh, please, I don't want to die, and all this sort of stuff going on. So all the emotions of the system comes out of ritual sacrifice through the images of the letters that we hold and call out as we talk English or French. And this is what we call out through the ego. The E-Go. E is the ecclesiastical priest of the occults. E is the ecclesiastical priest of the emotion, emotion. I want you to do this. So, for example, you see a police car, you sense trepidation, power, authority, red lights flashing, uniform. Now, where do you learn that? No, nature doesn't teach you that. You're brought up in that. You don't experience any of this stuff. So it comes from the brainwashing and going deeper into the occults, where all this emotion is built into the language we communicate, because they created it for this purpose, to make us forget who we are. So the self-obsession of the letters and the words forms our emptiness and our loneliness. And so we're inside the box in our self-obsession, bouncing off the duality of everything that the occultists put in our heads. But because our mothers and fathers are doing it, we're now in a bigger cult, because there's many inside the cult. There's mum, dad, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunties, grandfathers, grandmothers, and they're all broken down, broken-willed souls of men and women, because their ancestors were invaded and destroyed. And they've all been brought on the production line into the system through the education, molded, right? So this is all coming out of this language. So what I said before about these people arriving onto the lands of the tribes and talking Hebrew, Greek, that's going right over their heads as gobbledygook Martian talk, they don't make sense of anything. It doesn't mean anything. It's like, my God, where's this from? So you imagine the amount of pounding you have to be to accept the word constitution, accept the word government, accept the word freedom, and have it all defined to you. So you're actually in the cult of freedom. You're in the cult of constitution. You're in the cult of government. You're in the cult of commerce and money. You're comprehending this, because it's all defined, because they're not your dreams. You never dreamt any of this stuff. It was forced on you. So unless people wake up to this, unless we can explain this as simple as we can, they're never ever going to wake up, because all they're doing, Johnny, is they're going to one cult, right? Controlled by those who sold out, who are controlling it all, to find a remedy where there's nothing. And so you end up jumping through the hoops. Like I said, put the police car, you get the trepidation. I've got to go to work, got to jump through the hoop. I've got to make money, I've got to pay my rent, I've got to jump through the hoop. I've got to do this, got to jump through that. I need food on the table, I've got to get my kids through school, got to jump through the hoop. So you're forever jumping through the hoops of all these cults, of one big cult controlled by these occultists who defined this system in your dreaming to disconnect it and force you to unplug from the whole damn thing. So coronavirus won't fix the problem. All the revolutions coming out of coronavirus won't fix the problem. Any freedom truth movement that starts up like this will not fix it, because it's just another cult within the cults playing out through our good heart sentiments, bouncing off. You say, oh, I like Johnny, he's a great guy, so I play off the duality. Oh, he's a nice guy. What's Johnny? Oh, he's a nice guy. Well, that's duality. What I should say, I don't know what you go and experience Johnny face to face. Go and find out yourself. Have a direct experience. That's real.
Yeah.
But don't ask me to tell you what it is, because I'm just going to be a middleman, and I'll be lying to you if I told you what Johnny was like. So we are so sucked into which electrician you go to, which plumber, which this, which artisan, what kind of music, which politician should we vote. It's the same shit. We're trapped in a dream world of our dreaming, and we don't even realize that we're dreaming it like this.
This is the thing. We don't even realize it. It's like we're so lost at sea, like I told you. And you don't need to go far. Sometimes just talking to person just very close to you. I gave an example a lot often. I talk here about my mother or my father or the person close to me. And it's like I don't even want to talk about reality because I'll get shut down. The other day she told me I was stupid not to think like everyone else. That I should listen to what they say on TV and follow everything that they tell me to do. I'm like, hey, what is that? But they seem to have the need for someone in their head because they cannot think for themselves, maybe something like that.
Well, the alphabet already is someone in their head.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right? Because they didn't get you. If you go to nature, you don't learn ABC 1, 2, 3 because it doesn't exist. You only can imagine it. Same as Superman. You can't go and visit Superman. You can only visit a child acting as Superman. So you can't go and visit Prime Minister or President or anything. Anything defined to you, you can't go and experience it directly. You can only imagine it. So the system is a dream world of imagining as being reality. And in doing that, the background that we have become unconscious of because we're not given the full disclosure of all the details going on behind the pictures put in our heads. We don't see the system of their control over us. Because in going to work, you default to the system of commerce, of money that doesn't exist. I mean, you can't go and visit money anywhere and talk to money, right? Or banking, or insurance. It doesn't exist. You can't go and visit someone who defined consciousness to you, because that's a lie. Because no one can tell you what consciousness is. Because if they did, they're lying to you. You can only go to another man who explained the consciousness. And if you accept that explanation, you're lost in the lie, which is the B-52 bombers continue to drop their payloads of destruction because you're withdrawing from reality. You're bringing darkness in. And what's darkness? Anything that's anti-life. Life is the good heart, all the sentiments of the good heart, fully expressed, which every child has built in. All of us have it, if we don't end up meddled with. But because we've been meddled with, we've been sucked into this, factory planet of Earth conveyor belt, put on side boxes of processing and packaging. And we come out talking about, consciousness. We come talking about freedom and life, but it's all defined. And because it is not our dream, we are withdrawing from life itself. And in that withdrawing is destruction, because the moment you are falling from life, all you're putting in its place is death. There's nothing else going on. All the grey is just the haze of the in-between life falling into death. So all the grey and all the black is death, is destruction, is soullessness. Because they are not your dreams, they're not my dream, they're not our dream. We didn't create any of them. And never have, and never will. So that is duality. Duality is death. Duality is destruction. Because it's just another man in your head who's conquered your vessel, and dominating your vessel. Like pirates, pirate ships coming across the oceans of the alphabets, the whole of the sea that we see, S-E-E-S-E-A, the sea that we see, or the sea that we sail and that we see, S-E-E, is alphabets. It's a dream world made up of explanation, instruction, education, suggestion. And we are this vessel given a name, sailing on the sea of commerce. And for that to happen, our vessel, when it appeared in the womb, got invaded and attacked because our parents didn't protect us. We didn't have an armada around us to protect us from this invasion of pirates. And so what they did, they invaded, they bombarded our vessel. And one of the pirates took control of the helm of the vessel, right? Until we could train up to create a fake persona that we put on the vessel, but it's actually one of their people. It's not coming from our true dream, it's come from their dream. So we're now running around as this ego in self-obsession, believing this person in law, they call it the person or straw man, is who we are. And we're sailing on the sea of Admiralty law, this whole world made out of library books, which was on the ships of these UFOs that came on the lands in the first place. And that's all we're doing. We're just a kid acting as Superman in costume. We're now in our own vessel acting as Arthur and Jarnik, and we're having a chat across the internet right now in the system of this Admiralty world, this fake matrix, right? So if you can't step aside from this and see this, we are being used and abused, raped, pillaged, and plundered. Because you can't go and visit race. You can't go and visit culture, right? Because that's something you can only imagine. So be patient with me, bro, because you've got to get your head around this. If you go and visit a kid playing Superman, and there's 10 other kids all playing different characters, you're still in a fantasy, regardless if there's 5,000 involved in the act or 5 million. You understand that? None of it existing. No, it's not happening. People are just imagining from the programming of the alphabets that they learnt, the bouncing ball that they follow, that told them that they were Greek, that they were French, that they were this and that. And you practice doing this over and over and over. You're jumping hoops. Each time that bouncing ball, it's a hoop of Colts. The hoop of Colts.
I would like to go back on that duality, that the other man in your head, and that's very important. I think that's the basic of all that shit stem, if I can.
Well, where else does it come from?
But that's it. But
it's come from another man.
Yeah, exactly. But my point is, the more you know, like, I don't think it's wrong to say that I've became more silent, knowing a little bit more about reality, because I don't want to be that man inside another man's or woman's head. But man is man and woman.
Because you're becoming conscious and you're becoming sensitive, right? So you have this. You feel this, right? So it's a choice, or it's not a choice. It's just you say, no, I don't want to. What will happen? We do all become silent, and we actually start living our real lives.
I become more silent. Even on the internet, I've done very few things because I wanted to do something when it's really a good time for
In the background of your picture, you've got trees. In the real life, you've got trees, nature. That's what you're supposed to be creating with. Yeah. And your real dream is in the living. It's in life itself. That's where the real life is. There's no life in this system. So all the time we watch a kid playing Superman, like if we go to a Hollywood production with 5,000 people playing the roles, not from the beginning to end, it's all made up. And all you can do is imagine it. So coronavirus is this. Doesn't matter all the fundamentals within coronavirus. It's still made up of this script, of scriptures, like the Bible bullshit. It's scriptures because it's predetermined. And the script that we create is no different to creating animation that we've created, putting it inside the roll of film, put across the lens of a camera, it's projecting the light through the animation of the script onto a cinema screen, and we're watching the animation. But everything is predetermined. So when you go to a movie, it's already predetermined. You know you're walking into a horror movie. You're going to walk into a comedy. It's predetermined. The whole of the system, right back over, it's all predetermined. So the emotions of the self-obsession is all predetermined. And it comes out of ritual sacrifice. It doesn't come out of nature, tribes living joyful. I mean, look, all the tribes that were all coming out of the paradise of nature, they had no dark ages. There were no dark ages. How can you be amongst amazing mountains and rivers and insects of just beyond description, and so many, and birds and amazing all kinds of other creatures, and the breezes and the moisture and the light, and every instance unique. Where is the dark ages that we're brought up in like that? You see, the occultists created a whole history of bullshit, because we're actually in the dark ages now. We came from what wasn't dark ages through our ancestors before the fall into this lie. Now the whole of that history has all been twisted. Now I don't even know all the true history anymore either, because there's just so much we keep uncovering and finding through others doing research. We're discovering, man, this deception is much bigger than we think. But look, what I'm saying, it doesn't matter anymore, but any of it. All you have to remember is create your dreams through your senses. And I can't tell you what that is. No one can. Nobody can. So the more silent we become, the more respect we have for the dream of life to spread around us, so we're not encroaching on the space of other men and women. So in the original tribes, everyone had space. Now we're in chicken pens, you know, we're all locked inside little, you know where we're all going with this one, right?
Yeah.
What kind of dreams can people have when they're under pressure to get up in the morning, go to work, pay the taxes, pay the bills, you know, then they're going to go and have a relief, watch some footy. They're all cults within cults, go and watch some porno, go and do this, do that, whatever. You don't have any time for real life because you don't even know what that is, because it's a pantomime. You're in the Hollywood production on stage as one of the actors in a script that was already predetermined before you even appeared in the womb.
Arthur, to finish our chat for tonight, would you say, I think there's something positive in that whole coronavirus thing going around, because suddenly now the beings of this earth have time to think. You know, they're forced to stay home. They have canceled all entertainment, all big shows, sports, and that. So suddenly we have time to reflect on ourselves, on who we are, and
maybe, but there's a massive amount of people shopping on the internet, and all the courier businesses have gone up like this, and so there are a lot of people very busy with their shopping, mate. I'm telling you, and I'm not being negative. Yeah, I agree that some people may have a chance, because whatever these people do is also an opportunity to take it to a greater truth as well, no matter what they do. But we are puppets on a string. We've got these puppet masters hiding behind the shadows, manipulating us. And it's done through controlling the images that we are focusing on. So if you imagine our life is a film projector in the system, and all the predetermined scripts that forms the occults that we're trapped in is coming across the lens of our brain as we project or illuminate out. And that is now played off. So we're now looking for Aussie, Greek, Canadian, you know, and scientist, engineer, and we play off inside the occults of these things. But none of it is real. And none of it is the truth, because they are not your dreams. And no one can tell you what your dreams are. And until you allow the sun to shine of your true life, which no man can do for you, only you can do through your free will, and be conscious to do it, you're gone. You're trapped. And nothing will ever change.
I like what you say, let the sun shine on you and stuff, because that's, I think, a lot. It's been the starting point for me when I started to see the light of the sun, first of all, and see the sun moving in the sky. Like not listening to the other man's, what they put in my thoughts, and suddenly looked at things and observe. And, you know, this is how I think it has to start. You have to open up your eyes and observe.
Well, exactly, because if you go back to one of the early videos we did with you about the eclipse of the moon, I think it was part 2 of whatever those series is called. The shadow is actually a man between the sun and you, between reality and you. And the shadow is cast over you because you've accepted that definition, that explanation as your reality. So you do have a man inside your head, and that shadow is the darkness that's spreading, because we're not allowed to create our true light that shines. So when we have a true light that shines in that silence, there is no other man there. There's no conversation going on inside your head, because reality is not this inside our head. Everything in our head is only what we are imagining. You get that? You can only imagine it to be true. But the real one is the senses, and the senses are undefined. You can't visit senses. The senses is the true consciousness, and you can expand it beyond anything you can possibly comprehend outside the boxes of these prisons, predetermining what reality is to us. Follow that, and that is the sun that's shining. So if we are just living the dream of life that we are creating, you know, in our case with us, we create gardens and grow food and work on these insights to inspire others to work together, us with them with us, and get past all this shit and not worry about the fact that we're all fucked up, and just get on with it, knowing their intentions are pure. And you've got to have a good bullshit detector to suss out, to make sure the people involved are really sincere and genuine about it. As a collective, it's not to create another cult. It's to free us all up from being underneath each other in the system where we're all underneath each other anyway, And the occultists will do everything they can to sabotage that, to keep you trapped. So you've got no way ever getting out of this. So you've got to be able to create a living dream, live in the dream that you've created.
Yeah.
So it's not my words. My words will not set anyone free, ever. But if you sense the intentions and you sense your dream,
you have great chance to reach that freedom we're talking about.
well, we already are it, you see. It's not a destination anymore. It's already there.
It's already there.
And we're using it.
Exactly.
And that's your free will and being smart about what are we focusing on? What is the picture that we're focused on? Because every instance, right? I know we're going to wind up now. Every instant, there's another picture, right?
And that's
what are we focusing on?
I was telling PT, that's what they use through the media, TV, and internet, and that is just pictures constantly in our heads. And even the coronavirus, they came up with the picture of the virus, like they were able to draw a picture, but we never seen it in real time in microscope.
They can't. But that's why we support people who want to take them on. Like there's that woman, there's a couple of women who are coming from in the system with expertise for long periods of time. And they're naming names, right? And I'm saying, and I've been saying to people, let them go to court, let them have their day in court in the system, because that plays out. And if it's allowed to play out, which they don't want it to play out, but if people are prepared to support that, it begins to destroy, just like the people behind 9/11. People will start to wake up more and more and start questioning everything more and more, right? And so, yeah, look, even all of that's still not a remedy, but at least it's breaking down the hold over us.
Exactly.
Because people think you need to go to court to get your freedom. There's no freedom in the court that way. There is no freedom. We are meant to be undefined, Johnny, always undefined, and no man can do that for you. And if you accept any man, including this man, I am now your shadow. I'm now casting your darkness. And while you do that, they are the B-52 bombers coming over and dropping the payload to destroy the living dream of your life.
Wow. That was great, Arthur. Thank you very much for your presence on the TruMon show once again. And that's it. I'm going to contact you again probably to do a follow-up.
Another one. I'm up for a few more.
Yeah. That's it. So
concentrating on these themes, yeah.
Yeah, on these themes, on the basic, but also not so much the basic, because I think we don't even see the basic in front of us. So sometimes we have to take different way to explain ourselves or project our thoughts. But yeah, that's it.
I get it. It's all in the intention. I mean, really, everything's in the intention. But we have to sense that from other people and don't listen to the words.
Yeah.
Sense the intention behind it. And that will evoke what you're sensing. Just like when you're in nature and you're experiencing color and sound and shape and form unique to you, and it just inspires you, and those sensations just creates magnificent dreams. And that already is the sun that shines, because that's the soul of our dream, held and expressed as that magnificence of a man, because that's what we are, because we truly are the creator. There's no one else here, man. There's no one else here. All right? Just remember this, just to end this quickly. It's only a man talking about God. It's only a man talking about aliens. It's only a man talking about quantum physics. It's only a man talking about anything. Anything. But they are not your dreams.
Boom.
Because that's duality.
Exactly. So we will see you soon again, everyone watching this. And I'll see you soon, Arthur. Thank you.
Good to see you again, bro.
Yeah, good. Stay there. I'll say a couple of words to you off camera. Thank you very much. All right. See ya.